Okay, good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the second day of the California Veterinary Medical Board meeting. And for us to reconvene our session, would like to request our executive officer to do the roll.
Dr. Solcito,
Here.
Ms. Pulaski,
Here.
Dr. Bradbury,
Here.
Mr. Espinoza,
Here.
Dr. Maniak,
Here.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Dr. Tomlinson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the special order of business, which I believe will be handled by our ALJ. I'll turn it over to you, Judge.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right. So let's officially go on the record. We are on the record before the California Veterinary Medical Board to review the petition for reduction of penalty by Dr. Kim L. Kuhlman. Case number 460-2018-000-299. OAH number 2025-090-684. My name is Brian Weisel. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter. Just prior to putting this matter on the record, we took roll and a quorum of the board is present. Can I please have the appearances starting with the Deputy Attorney General?
Deputy Attorney General Adriana Lazark, appearing pursuant to Government Code Section 11522. I'm here to assist the panel with fact-finding. Good morning.
Good morning. And for petitioner?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Go ahead. Turn the mic on.
There we go. Apologies. Good morning, Your Honor. Distinguished members of the board. My name is Drew Kotu. I'm serving as counsel for Dr. Kim Kuhlman, who's seated to my right here at the table as well.
Thank you. Just generally how this will work, counsel, I'm going to ask in a minute for the Attorney General's office to give just a basic background for the board's edification, and then ask her to admit the petition record, which has already been provided. After that, we'll shift to you, have you put your client under oath and ask him as progress on probation, okay? After that, you decide want to give closing remarks, we'll do that too. And all the board members will have a chance to ask questions of your client. So, Ms. Lazark, would you mind giving us a background and procedural history?
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner Dr. Coleman became licensed as a veterinarian, on March 7th, 1983. On May 30th, 2006, the board issued a premise registration to San Francisco Equine Inc. with petitioner as the managing licensee. The board filed a first amended accusation against petitioner's veterinary license and the license of San Francisco Equine Inc. on April 7th, 2022, alleging 14 causes for discipline against his license, including the first allegation was that from July 2nd, 2017 through August 17th, 2017, petitioner engaged in negligent acts when he prescribed, dispensed, or administered a drug or medication to approximately 30 equine patients without first performing an examination of the patients and forming a diagnosis of a condition that required a treatment. The second allegation was that from that same time period, July 2nd, 2017 through August 17th, 2017, respondent engaged in unprofessional conduct when he dispensed dangerous drugs to approximately 30 different equine patients. The medication was not necessary for the treatment of any condition. The third allegation was that from July 2nd, 2017 through August 17th, 2017, petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he failed to establish a veterinarian client-patient relationship with approximately 30 equine patients prior to administering, dispensing, or furnishing a drug, medication, or treatment. The fourth allegation was that from that same time period, petitioner failed to keep written records containing patient-related information required by law for approximately 30 equine patients receiving veterinary services at San Francisco Equine Inc. The fifth allegation was that from July 2nd through August 17th, 2017, the petitioner used a drug, substance, or medication that was not approved by the FDA on approximately 25 equine patients. The sixth allegation was that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he manufactured, sold, delivered, held, or offered for sale drugs that are imitation or commercially available drugs. This was done to circumvent the cost of commercially available drugs. The seventh allegation was that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he manufactured, sold, delivered, held, or offered for sale drugs that were improperly labeled and therefore misbranded. The ninth allegation was that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he failed to ensure that all drugs and biologics at San Francisco Equine were maintained, administered, dispensed, and prescribed in compliance with state and federal regulations and laws. In that, during the board's inspection, there were no protocols regarding the disposal of expired drugs or monitoring of expired drugs. The 10th allegation was that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when, as of September 2018, he failed to ensure that San Francisco Equine complied with regulations regarding the disposal of waste material by being properly registered with Contra Costa County as a medical waste generator. The 11th allegation was that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he, as the managing licensee of San Francisco Equine, failed to ensure that Schedule 4 drugs were being dispensed by San Francisco Equine veterinarians with properly recorded and maintained records. The 12th allegation was that petitioner failed to report the dispensing of controlled substances to the Department of Justice through the Cures program. The 13th allegation was that petitioner's drug dispensing logs failed to include the names and addresses of the persons to whom the drugs were being dispensed. The logs were also incomplete. The 14th and last allegation was that from July 2nd, 2017 through August 18th, 2017, petitioner engaged in record-keeping violations when he failed to ensure that the medical records maintained at San Francisco Equine, for approximately 35 equine patients complied with the minimum standards for record keeping. On October 14th, 2022, petitioner signed a stipulated settlement, placing his license on probation for 4 years with 19 terms and conditions. The effective date of the decision and order was December 30th, 2022. In the stipulation, petitioner agreed that at hearing, the board could establish a factual basis for the allegations in the first amended accusation, and that those allegations constitute cause for discipline. Petitioner has not told his probation during the probationary period. He has been compliant with the cost recovery term, and as of April 1st, 2024, he has paid in full the amount of the costs, totaling $71,001.01. Petitioner has been non-compliant with 2 of the probationary terms, including quarterly reports, and that he did not timely submit the first quarterly report of 2023 to his probation monitor, and also the medical records review term, in that in 2023, he was late to submit the name and qualifications of his medical reviewer. Petitioner, however, became compliant with these violations when they were brought to his attention by his probation monitor. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to look at the exhibit packet next.
Yes, Your Honor. I have provided the panel members as well as uploaded these exhibits through Case Center. There are a total of 15 pre-marked exhibits for identification, starting with the first exhibit, which is the jurisdictional documents, including the notices of hearing and the proof of service. Exhibit 1 is being offered for jurisdictional purposes.
Commissioners, counsel, any objection to
No
exhibit 1?
objections, Your Honor.
No objection. Exhibit 1 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 2. This is a certified license history for Dr. Coleman, which was prepared by Ashley Sanchez in her official capacity as the enforcement manager by the board. I ask that Exhibit 2 be admitted for all purposes.
Counsel,
No objection, Your Honor.
do you have any objection to any of the exhibits in the packet?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, any objection to me just admitting all 15 as they stand?
I'm sorry.
There's 15 marked exhibits. It's in one packet, but they're marked on the first page. I can just admit all 15 if you consent.
Yeah, we consent.
Okay. Exhibits one is for jurisdictional purposes and 2 through 15 for all purposes are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you still like me to go through them?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the Attorney General's office?
Not at this time. Thank you.
All right, so petitioner, I'm going to place your client under oath and then you can ask him questions. Okay, counsel? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury, testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you please state your full name?
Kim Lewis Coleman.
Okay. Counsel?
Thank you. Dr. Kuhlman, would you please tell the board for how long you have been licensed as a veterinarian in the state of California?
I've been practicing in California for 42 plus years.
In addition to your veterinary license, are you also licensed by another board in the state?
Yes, I'm licensed by the California Horse Racing Board
And what license do you hold, the California Horse Racing Board?
as a veterinarian.
As a licensed veterinarian with the CHRB, are there any rules that indicate under whose direction and supervision you are entitled to practice as a veterinarian in horse racing?
We are, as practicing veterinarians, we are under the direct supervision of the state regulatory veterinarian at the individual racetracks with which we practice.
As a result of this action by the California Veterinary Medical Board, did you become aware of any actions on your part that the Veterinary Medical Board believed were below the standard of care of a veterinary professional in this state?
Based on the accusation, yes.
And as a result of becoming aware of that, did you review and consider the accusations that were leveled against you by the board?
Yes.
And as a result of the accusations, did you enter into the stipulation free and willingly?
Yes.
Did the accusations cause you in any way to modify any aspect of your veterinary practice?
Yes, we went through all of the accusations and corrected basically all of the accusations that were raised.
In what way, can you give some examples to the board in what way you corrected your practice to comply with the concerns or to address the concerns raised by the California Veterinary Medical Board?
Well, the primary accusations dealt with VCPR and record keeping, and we made a concerted effort to correct all of those medical records. In addition, as of 2019, the California Horse Racing Board set up an electronic record keeping system for the practicing veterinarians at the racetrack. And by doing that, it increased the accuracy and the quality of our medical records. You couldn't enter any of the records unless you had the proper signalant for the individual animal and description of the medication dose, route of administration, et cetera, and the reason for administering the medication.
As part of your probation, you were required to have your veterinary medical records reviewed. Did you in fact do so?
Yes.
Who reviewed your veterinary medical record?
Dr. Cassil Batten.
And how often did Dr. Batten review your medical records?
We submitted the records to her monthly for her review. There was a certain percentage of our medical records that were required to be submitted, either 10% of our records or 15 records, whichever was a greater number.
Was there any point during that process that Dr. Batten advised you that your records were in any way inappropriate or of concern to her?
No.
Was there any point through your probation up to this point where you've been notified by your probation officer that the California Veterinary Medical Board or the probation officer had concerned about the quality of your records?
No,
Okay. Has there been, since this probation began, has there been any concern raised by either either the official veterinarian of California Horse Racing Board or your probation officer that the manner in which you are currently practicing does not establish a proper veterinary patient client relationship?
no,
Have you been informed by your probation officer that any aspect of your compliance with your probation, other than the one late report and the one late filing of the record review, have they told you there has been any other concern by the manner in which you're complying with your probation?
no,
In addition to the records review, have you also engaged in any continuing education as part of your probation?
yes, we have to complete 8 hours of continuing education regarding record keeping annually.
Have you found your participation in the continuing education program helpful to you as a practitioner?
Yes.
In what way?
It refreshed my memory as far as proper record keeping, and also there were aspects of record keeping that I was actually unfamiliar with that were that were pointed out in the record keeping classes, especially certain statutes that are required in the state of California that may not be required in other states.
Despite the trauma associated with this, these accusations, have you found that the process has in any way, in your opinion, made you a better veterinarian at this point?
I think as long at any point when you can improve your record keeping and have more thorough records, it helps you as a veterinarian. It gives you a better opportunity to go back and review old records. And if they're accurate, it helps you to form a more appropriate treatment plan going forward.
Just if we could give a little background to the board about sort of what your practice as a racetrack equine veterinarian has been like over the past 40 years. Is that a 9 to 5 job? Is that a 5-day a week job? Is it somewhat different?
At the racetrack, it's a 7-day a week job. Usually starts between 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. and ends usually roughly at 5 p.m. Typically, we don't have a tremendous amount of emergency calls because the horses are monitored, basically all day at the racetrack. So if you have a problem, you usually can resolve it prior to going home. But the drawback to a racetrack practice is it is a 7-day a week job, 24 hours a day, basically.
And how many years were you practicing as a racetrack equine veterinarian in the state of California?
42 years.
Have you made any effort to sort of estimate or quantify the interactions you've had with equine patients, or your practice has had with equine patients over that period of time?
Yeah, I went back and estimated the number of either exams or treatments that were performed over that period of time, and the number is approximately 1.8 million. The practice as a whole, that number would be closer to 3 million.
And at any time, have you ever been informed by the California Veterinary Medical Board that a client has um, uh, complained of an injury or death to a horse that you have treated?
No, to my knowledge, there's never been a complaint.
Okay. All right, I think those are. And one final question, why is it you believe it would be appropriate for the board to consider your petition to modify your probation?
Well, I've met all the parameters that were required of the probation, and I have uh, i- improved and corrected all the causes for the accusation originally submitted, as well as increased, my record keeping is much more complete than it was before.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Lazark, any cross-examination?
Just a few questions, Your Honor. Dr. Coleman, you've been practicing since 1983,
Yes.
and at the time that these violations are alleged, you had been practicing for about 30 years, correct?
Yes.
So my question to you is, after practicing as a veterinarian for 30 years, the allegation is that you dispense drugs or medications to 30 different horses without first performing an examination, or without forming a diagnosis that required treatment. So how is it that after 30 years of practicing as a veterinarian, you overlooked or did not know whether or not an examination should be performed prior to dispensing drugs?
The um, the general protocol at the racetrack is that we would examine a horse, and the California Horse Racing Board the regulatory veterinarian would require us to fill out a confidential report for any procedures or treatments that were done. And anytime that we did that, we submitted it to the California Horse Racing Board, and it was done on a daily basis. Um, for 30 plus years, that was the standard of care that the California Horse Racing Board felt was appropriate for the equine veterinarians at the racetrack to perform. So, in essence, the practitioners that I worked for when I first started out, and the practitioners that I work with now, or had worked with when the racing was still in Northern California, were doing the same types of exams and record keeping that I was doing, and under the California Horse Racing Board rules, we were compliant.
What have you done since 2017 to change your practices to ensure that you are compliant with all California laws?
Well, obviously, once the complaint came from the California Veterinary Medical Board, and they indicated that our records were lacking, we corrected them immediately. And as I said, once we went to an electronic treatment record program, it was mandatory that our records provided all the information that would be required in a minimum basic record keeping system. We would, signalment to the animal, the medications given, dosage, route of administration, and reason for treatment of that animal.
So is it your practice now that you examine your patients prior to administering drugs or medication?
Well, we always examine them. Basically, at the time at the racetrack, I would work for a certain set of trainers, and they would have X number of horses in the barn. Well, basically, I would look at those horses 3 to 4 times a week on an average basis. And if the horses had a medical or a surgical problem, it would be more often than that. The confidential report that we filled out did not have wasn't a requirement that we showed that we'd examined the horses at the time. That didn't mean that we didn't examine them. We were examining them very frequently. There was never a time when somebody would come up and say, well, I need this for this horse. Well, the horse was always examined prior to that.
So is it mainly a record-keeping violation?
That was the record-keeping violation, and the fact that we did not, based on what we thought was appropriate, we were not recording our examinations, and now we do.
Similar question, Dr. Coleman, but pertaining to your use of non-FDA approved medication for treating equine patients. What have you done to change your practice?
Well, we're obviously a lot more cognizant of what is or isn't approved in horses. There are still extra label uses of medications in equine that are not specifically straight for that particular use in horses for certain antibiotics, et cetera, but they do have extra label use. As far as anything that's not FDA approved, which, for example, when you talk about compounded medication, that was one of the causes for violation. The state of California has really cracked down on compounded medication anyway. It's very strict on what they're allowing as far as compounded medication dose, when you can give it. So all of that has been cleaned up as well.
I read in your narrative statement that your practice is no longer to dispense controlled substances. Is that correct?
We don't dispense any controlled substances anymore.
And that was as of 2018?
The last controlled substance that we dispensed, I think, might have been some carisoprodol back in the day by Dr. Boyer.
You mentioned that Dr. Batten provided a review of your medical records. Is that correct?
Yes,
Does she still provide a review of your records?
yes,
Will she continue to provide a review of your records?
yes.
And will she continue to provide a review of your records if you were to have your probation terminated?
I don't believe that she would be required to.
What safeguards, so Dr. Batten provided a safeguard to ensure that your medical records were accurate. What safeguards do you now have, or will you have in place when Dr. Batten no longer is there to review your records to ensure the California consuming public that you will not be violating any laws?
Well, I think you sort of have to police yourself as far as your medical records. One thing I will state is when I was practicing at the racetrack, I would examine close, on average, over 100 horses a day, examine or treat. Now that racing is no longer being carried out in Northern California, my practice has shifted to more of an ambulatory sport horse practice. So instead of looking at 100 horses a day, I'm looking at, on a good day, 7, 8. And you have much more time to create a thorough record on the animal, which I'm doing.
And you are now the president of San Francisco Equine?
Yes,
How many veterinarians work at San Francisco Equine?
2.
Is that yourself and Dr. Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Okay, let's move on to the board member questions. I'm going to start to my left, your right, and we'll just keep going down the line until the board members have exhausted their inquiry. So, Dr. Maniak.
Dr. Coleman, thank you for coming today. You note that with record keeping, the importance of it for yourself and your practice. What do you think about from what everything you've gone through with the CEs and your knowledge now with record keeping? How about the importance? Can you discuss the importance for the client and for the patient?
Well, I think if you provide full and complete medical records, and if it helps to formulate a plan going forward as far as treatment modalities, and two, um, when you have repeat visits or repeat issues with an individual animal, if you have complete records, it gives you a basis on how to formulate a more accurate diagnosis going forward. And plus, if the horse gets referred to another facility, and having complete records will also benefit the owner and the individual animal once the referral veterinarian sees it.
Great, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for coming today. You've answered a lot of my questions. It sounds like you were kind of using the medical records of the track, I guess the HISA requirements. So do you have a different system now that you're not working on the track, and how you're entering records?
We have our regular billing system, and I just write out my records, and they're transcribed into our billing system.
So it's kind of it is an electronic record, and
Yes.
you're typing it out. Okay. And then I think track practice is very different than everything else, really. So now you're kind of, it sounds like a less stressful job, actually. But how are you establishing a VCPR for your patients in like big barns when clients aren't necessarily available?
Typically, when I'm seeing horses now, usually the owner is there, or if it is in a show barn where the trainer is acting as the authorized agent, I'll speak with them, and then we will try and contact the owner prior to any major medical decisions that are being made.
Great. Thank you so much.
Dr. Solicito.
All right. Thank you again for coming, Dr. Coleman. So I guess I'm just curious. My background is in shelter medicine, and we see multiple animals per day, per veterinarian. So I can understand, like, also, for the racetrack. I guess my question is, do you still work with like multiple animals in one location, that you go to and maintain that, clientele? Or-
Yes, there's certain hunter jumper barns that I'll work for that will have multiple horses in the barn. And like I say, if we'll look at the individual animal and discuss it with the trainer, and then contact the owner and go ahead and do what
Yeah.
treatments
Okay,
required.
thank you. Yeah, so for me as a small animal practitioner, I don't know much about equine. I guess, is it also the same with equine that they would have like an annual exam so that you could maintain them as a client
Usually,
even without illness, right? So,
Usually, this part of the practice is actually just starting for me. The racetrack closed in Northern California. The last racing facility closed at the end of March. But the plan going forward is when you're dealing with barns, the plan will be to, in the spring, do an annual wellness exam, provide them with their required vaccinations for that time frame, possibly do dental work on the horses and stuff like that.
Okay. And that was not the practice before?
At the racetrack, we would typically, because the individual animals at the racetrack tend to be young, you don't see a whole lot of racehorses that are over 8 years old. And the majority of them are 2 to 3 years old. So they were on a pretty regular vaccination program. Typically, we recommended certain vaccines 4 times a year,
Mhm.
and then other vaccines would be given once a year. And plus HISA, which is the regulatory body, they required vaccinations at least once a year to be licensed.
Is it common for equine practitioners to maintain electronic medical records?
Initially, well, we've always had well, for the last 20 some years, we've had electronic medical records as far as our practice. But as far as at the racetrack, it was only a written record up until 2019. And then everything went electronic after that.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Pulaski.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Coleman. Very much appreciate it. The first question is, so you had mentioned when you went to your continuing education that part of your record keeping was refreshed. What part of the record keeping was refreshed? What particular part did you get refreshed from going to the continuing education?
I think it was just the how they stressed to be more complete. You wanted to spell out the problem in a complete manner, so that anybody could look back on your records and understand what you're putting in it. That was probably the biggest thing. You go through vet school and you're taught the SOAP, and that's a good standard to go by, and just to follow up with at each individual's aspect of the SOAP, try and fill out a complete record on that part.
Thank you. The second question is on your petition for reinstatement or modification of penalty. It asks for total number of years in veterinary practice, and you didn't answer that, but you answered that today. So 42 years. And then, but you did say down, so I just want to this is a clarifying question. But for your employment history, so you've had San Francisco Equine for 30 years, because you have that for 30 years.
Roughly, I was in practice with another couple veterinarians, and the practice at that time was Equine Veterinary Services. I
Okay.
left the practice and went on my own and formed San Francisco Equine after approximately 10 or 12 years.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Espinoza.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman, for being here today. Just some questions. You're before us asking for early termination of probation, in essence, that you've been rehabilitated. And with that rehabilitation comes some insight, we would hope. Can you help us understand, is it fair to say you believed your practice met the standard of care expected of the California Horse Racing Board, but may have fallen below the standard of care expected of the California Veterinary Medical Board? Is that a fair assessment of?
That's very accurate.
And can you help us understand why there is that variance, perhaps for veterinarians in your position that do your type of work, why there would be the sense to prioritize maybe the requirements of the racing board and less of an emphasis or prioritization of this board?
It's actually, I think everybody at the racetrack, well, the number of practitioners at least in Northern California, were an older group of practitioners, and a small number of them, and they'd been under the California Horse Racing Board guide for record keeping for so long that they just assumed that that was the requirements that were made of us. And so I guess we were basically all were very complacent when it came to it. But obviously with the accusation and as I said, once we went to the electronic record keeping system, it became much more thorough. All equine practitioners at the racetrack now have much more accurate, much more thorough medical records due to the fact that we're on that treatment system. It requires you to have everything in it, or it won't accept the entry.
Having gone through this process now, and with the benefit of insight and looking back, is there other areas of improvement that you can identify to say, well, what could this board do to perhaps better educate some other areas that maybe folks that practice in your area may fall short? Record keeping is one of them, but is there any other areas that come to mind having gone through this process?
Well, I think it was interesting, not only record keeping, but our practice, even prior to the accusation, had multiple premise inspections. And every time we would have a premise inspection, there would always be something new that we didn't know. And, I think that with having the board go through these premise inspections, they can be stressful for the practitioner to have to go through them, but they are very educational. One thing that was sort of enlightening when we had our original accusation was one of the complaints was that we were buying compounded medication from an individual compound. We had bought compounded medications from various compounders, and one of them was a compounder that was out of Alabama. And in our practice, we'd learned about it from the practitioners down in Southern California. And when the board filed a complaint against us, we found out that compounding pharmacy wasn't even licensed in the state of California. And so that was sort of enlightening in that I guess we have to be more cognizant of who we're doing business with. And I'm not exactly sure how we do that. I guess we have to, if we have a company that we're working for, I guess we have to contact the Board of Pharmacy and make sure that they're licensed. But, some of these things we just had no idea that we were in violation of. And I think that stuff like premise inspections and such are very enlightening on as far as what's proper as far as going forward.
Thank you.
Dr. Tomlinson.
Thank you very much for being here today. It's enlightening to hear your enlightenment. Most of my questions have been asked already. Let me follow up with just one. You previously used the CHRB HISA electronic medical record for your track horses. You have transitioned to sport horses. Do you still use that system?
No.
What system do you use now? You have described the prior system as requiring you to put all these things in. Does your current system require you similarly?
Our system doesn't require it, but we do, like when I do an examination now, I provide full signalment. If they even have a tattoo or a chip number, I'll include that. And then, I always write down on my sheets the medications, dosage, rates, route of administration stuff. So, and then that gets transcribed into our billing system, and it goes with the medical records.
Excellent. As an example, when you dispense, you just said dosage, et cetera, you write all that down. what do you hand to the client?
I usually have the sheet that I fill out daily with the client. I fill it out at the time, and it's got a photocopy sheet underneath. They get the second page underneath it.
Okay.
And it also has, if I dispense oral medication, I have on the records, I have the dosage, route of administration, and the fact that I've discussed uh, the medication with the owner.
Okay, so it's verbal, not written.
That part is verbal. I've spoken with them, but then there's a written copy that I give them afterward.
Oh, what I'm looking for is if they miss a dose, have you explained to them what they should do?
In certain instances, and I always leave them. My phone number. If there's any questions, to call me, and if they have any questions as far as treatments or different signs or reactions to the medication, to call me.
Thank you.
Mayor Mitchell?
Thank you, and thank you for being here. I am not a veterinarian, so I don't have any technical questions. I just would like to ask, and I think you may have already answered this question, but has this process, although I'm sure very painful, uh, let you reach a conclusion and change your practices so that in the future, when you're no longer on probation, that you will continue to do the best practices for this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my my record keeping is not gonna uh, suddenly regress once I'm off probation. It's just better. It's better practice.
And you have systems in place to make sure that it happens?
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, I appreciate it. It seems as though you've taken the spirit of what's been happening here to heart and have really embraced it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
We have a few. I guess we have a few follow-ups. Let's just go back down the left. Dr. Mack? No? Dr. Bradbury?
So you had mentioned that you felt that you were following the CHRB rules, and I actually worked on the track too, so I know that that can be confusing. But the CHRB was actually the group that referred your case to us. Do you have any insight as to why that would happen if you were following all of their rules?
The to be honest with you, Dr. Franklin was the initiator of the complaint, and he just felt that we were not doing the exams, and he felt that we were um, just going in and willy-nilly treating horses without any medical reason. And we, as I spoke earlier, because with the CHRB forms, it didn't show any sort of an exam, but we always had, as I told you, multiple exams on each individual animal. So we would always give the trainer our thoughts and treatment options, and left it up to them to choose the options that they wanted to use. It's the same situation you run into in private practice when you're dealing with owners. You examine the horse, you see the problem, you give them treatment options. It's up to them to decide how much they want to do. And in our case, Dr. Franklin thought that we hadn't done any exams, and we were just going in there and having a trainer tell us, well, give this horse this, this, and this.
Thank you.
Dr. Solicito?
Hi, just a follow up. So I heard that going through this experience, you emphasized that your record keeping has definitely improved. I wanted to ask about the VCPR.
Mhm.
What what changes have you made to make sure that you're establishing VCPR when you're treating your patients?
Well, we, like I said, we do a complete physical exam to begin with, and then speak with either the authorized agent and or the owner right at that time. And we establish it at that moment and go from there.
Okay, so there's no instance where you would go into a barn where there's no agent or there's no owner that you would, be given access to the barn and do your exam and everything.
No.
That doesn't happen.
No, there's always, especially now, when you make appointments to go to treat an individual animal or see an individual animal, there's always somebody there.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Any follow-up questions?
Couple follow-ups.
I'll see petitioner first. No? Okay.
Let her go. and
Okay. Attorney General.
Sure. Dr. Coleman, I've heard the saying across my practice, and I'm obviously not in the medical field, but that if it's not in the records, it doesn't exist. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. That's, when you take these medical record keeping classes, that's the mantra of it. If it's not in the record, it never happened.
And my last question is, why do you want to be off of probation early?
Oh, well, I think I've fulfilled the terms of it, and I think that it's something that I'm going to carry forward with me. I don't feel like, as I stated before, once I go off probation, I'm going to regress and just not provide proper medical records or proper care. I've never felt like that horses that I cared for received less than my best effort to treat them. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. It hasn't happened up to this point, and I've been doing it for 42 years. So I don't anticipate something like that going forward.
Nothing further.
Any follow-up for petitioner?
I have no questions for Dr. Coleman.
Microphone.
I apologize. I have no additional questions for Dr. Kuhlman. I'm hoping we'll have the opportunity to make a closing statement.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you again. I have the privilege of representing Dr. Kuhlman, who I've known for 42 years. When I was in law school, I worked the summers at the racetrack in Northern California. My brother was then training horses, and I was rubbing horses and ponying horses. And Dr. Kuhlman, in the practice he was in, would treat some of the horses in our barn. And I've known Kim for 42 years, and I've known him to be an incredibly responsible veterinarian. And part of my practice, most of my practice has been related to equine matters. Here in California, I was a national president of Thoroughbred Owners of Breeders Association. I've been on international committees. I've been involved with horses all my life. And so I said it's a privilege to represent Kim because I know him as a veterinarian, as a practicing veterinarian. When we had problems in the middle of the night, we could call and Kim would be there. If it was 2 a.m, we had a horse colic, we had a horse get cast, Kim would be there. And he's done that throughout his career. He was on the board when we were able to establish a veterinary hospital, surgical facility at Golden Gate Fields that supplemented the work done at UC Davis. We created a board, and Kim was on that board, and we made certain that hospital provided veterinary care to not only race horses but to horses beyond the racetrack if there was an emergency and Davis was too far. And Kim helped to make certain that was a reality. And I think things like that get lost when you read these accusations and the way in which the accusations are written, that they failed to keep records, et cetera, et cetera. we talk about why did you comply with the horse racing board, not necessarily California Veterinary Medical Board. So here I wear my hat as a lawyer. And so there's an interesting dichotomy here, is that we've got two state boards in which the California Supreme Court has said, and the statutes say, that in the context of horse racing, the California Horse Racing Board's rules are plenary. And that includes medication rules, that includes veterinary practices. They are plenary, which means they supersede everything else. In the context of providing veterinary care at the racetrack for many years, it has been understood, perhaps incorrectly, and I think that's what has come out of this. Dr. Coleman's not the only equine racetrack veterinarian, him and Dr. Allison. There's approximately 20 others that have been caught up in this sort of conflict between conflicting rules. But what he has told you is that throughout his practice, every time they treated a horse or administered a medication, they had to provide a confidential to the horse racing board, which informed the state that these horses were receiving whatever treatment or whatever medication. That was done on a daily basis. That's something no other veterinarians in the state do. And they're trained as equine veterinarians in the practice of herd veterinary medicine. And so they observe these horses almost every day. And when their observations warrant an examination, they then examine the horse. When that examination then indicates that some form of treatment or administration of a medication is appropriate, they then administer that, and they immediately advise the horse racing board of what went to each one of those patients. With regard to the veterinary client-patient relationship, there's also been sort of a tug between what's regulatory and it's unfortunate but here's the regulatory pull. And I'm going to get to the point where even though there's a regulatory pull, what Dr. Coleman and Dr. Allison have said is if the veterinary medical board wants it done a certain way, and we've been taught to do it a different way, we'll do it this way to make certain that we're in compliance with what the board wants. But we're hopeful that the board recognizes that they've functioned within a regulatory environment that would required a different sort of set of requirements. And so the horse racing board on the veterinary client-patient relationship has multiple regulations. Number one, the trainers are the authorized agent with regard to the health of the horses within their care. In fact, there's a rule that says they are the absolute insurer of the condition of the horse. They are the absolute insurer with regard to medications. And so the relationship is typically between the veterinarian and the trainer, and oftentimes involves the owners, and we're happy to bring the owners in to talk about the relationship. But that's what the regulation says there. And unlike in other equine disciplines, trainers in the horse racing, in order to get their license, are tested in a written and oral examination with regard to medications and veterinary practices. They have to pass an examination. So they are somewhat different than an average layman with regard to equine medications. And so that was the environment in which these doctors were working for many years. They did their examinations. They documented it in the way in which the horse racing board was indicating was acceptable. And at some point, 2017, 2019, they became aware that the California Veterinary Medical Board disagreed with the processes. And rather than argue about who was right or wrong, Dr. Coleman and Dr. Allison, you'll find out, said, what can we do to um, comply, hopefully? How do we change to comply with the requirements of this board? They've always put equine health and safety first in everything they've done. And nobody's perfect. That is the one thing that we all know. No one's perfect. And when this was brought to their attention, they didn't fight it. They said, tell us what we need to do to make this right, and we'll do it. And they've done that for the last several years. And I think these are the kinds of veterinarians, hopefully the board wants, who spend 40 plus years treating animals in the state and don't have a single complaint about a health or safety issue of any of their patients or interactions over that period of time. They have done no harm to any horses in their period of time. There's no complaints, no consumer complaints, no owner complaints in that regard. They didn't comply. They understand that, and they want to make right, and they've tried to make it right. So I'm hopeful you have a process to modify probations, and I'm hopeful that the facts demonstrate that Dr. Coleman is one of those veterinarians who warrants consideration of that by the board. Thank you.
Closing remarks for the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, then that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is now closed and the case is submitted. We're off the record with regard to this matter. So before we call the other, let's take 15 minutes, come back at 10:15. Thank you. Okay, we are back from our break. We have our second matter. On the record before the California Veterinary Board, Veterinary Medical Board, to review the petition for early reduction of penalty for Dr. Kenneth Carl Allison. Case number 460-2018-000-298. OAH case number 2025-090-678. My name is Brian Weisel. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to preside over this matter. Prior to the record for this matter, we already established that a quorum for the board is present, and a quorum I can see is still present. Can I please have the appearance for the Attorney General's office?
Adriana Lazark, appearing pursuant to Government Code Section 115 Type 522. I'm here to assist the panel with fact-finding. Good morning.
Good morning. And for petitioner?
Good morning. Again, Drew.
Mike again. We'll get that.
Apologies. Sorry. Again, good morning. Drew Cotu on behalf of Dr. Ken Allison, who's seated to my right.
Can the Attorney General's office please be so kind to give us a background, procedural history?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Petitioner Dr. Allison received his veterinary license on May 29th, 1992. The license remains current through November 30th, 2026, unless he renews it. On April 7th, 2022, the board filed a first amended accusation against petitioner's veterinary license with very similar allegations as those against Dr. Coleman, except that in Dr. Allison's case, there were 5 as opposed to 14 different causes of discipline. The first allegation was that from June 29th, 2017 through August 17th, 2017, petitioner engaged in negligent acts when he prescribed, dispensed, or administered a drug or medication to approximately 30 different equine patients without first performing an examination of the patient and forming a diagnosis of a condition that required treatment. The second allegation was that during that same time period, petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he dispensed dangerous drugs to approximately 30 equine patients. The medication was not necessary for the treatment of any condition. Third allegation was that same time period, petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct when he failed to establish a veterinarian client-patient relationship with approximately 30 equine patients prior to administering, dispensing, or furnishing drugs, medicine, or treatment. Fourth allegation was that from June 29th, 2017 through August 17th, 2017, petitioner failed to keep written records containing patient-related information as required by the Board of Veterinary Medicine for approximately 30 equine patients that received veterinary services at San Francisco Equine, Inc. The fifth and last allegation was that from June through August 17th, 2017, petitioner treated approximately 23 equine patients with drugs, substances, or medications that were not approved by the FDA. On October 14th, 2022, petitioner signed a stipulated settlement, which placed him on 3 years of probation, during which time petitioner agreed to be subject to 19 different terms and conditions. The effective date of that decision and order was December 30th, 2022. In the stipulation, petitioner agreed that at a hearing, the board would establish a factual basis for the allegations in the first amended accusation, and that those allegations constitute cause for discipline against his license. Petitioner has not told his probation during the probationary period. He has also complied with the cost recovery term, and as of September 23rd, 2024, he has paid the full amount of costs totaling $23,961. A probation compliance report, which is Exhibit 9, starting on base stamp number A96, signed by Alexander Juarez on October 2nd, 2025, shows that petitioner has been non-compliant with 3 of his probationary terms, including quarterly reports. And that petitioner was late in submitting the 4th quarterly report for the year of 2024. He was non-compliant with the medical record review term, in that petitioner failed to ensure an approved medical record reviewer submitted monthly supervision reports for the month of January through June of 2024. And he was not compliant with the term that requires him to obey all laws. There are a list of regulatory violations starting on base stamp page A96, Exhibit 9, which discusses these regulatory violations. Petitioner became compliant with all of these violations when they were brought to his attention by the probation monitor. Thank you.
Do we want to get into the exhibit packet?
Yes, Your Honor, a total of 16 pre-marked exhibits for identification. I don't know if
Yeah. So council,
Council.
are you okay with all 16 in one group, or do you want to go through them individually?
We're okay with all.
Microphone, please. We'll get it by the end.
A slow learner today, I apologize. Just to repeat, we are okay with all exhibits as one.
All right, then I will admit all exhibits 1 through 16. Anything else for the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, so petitioner, we just have your client, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Dr. Allison, could you please raise your right hand? And is your microphone on? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury, the testimony you'll give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can lower your hand.
Thank
Would
you.
you state your full name, please?
Kenneth Carl Allison. Allison.
Counsel.
Thank you. Dr. Allison, are you currently licensed in the state of California as a veterinarian?
Yes.
For how long have you been licensed as a veterinarian?
Approximately 32 years.
And that license is with the California Veterinary Medical Board, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you hold any other licenses as a veterinarian in the state of California?
This is the California Horse Racing Board license.
And for how long have you been licensed by the California Horse Racing Board as a veterinarian?
32 years.
Have you at any time during the 32 years practiced any form of veterinary medicine other than equine medicine?
No.
Okay. You, Dr. Allison, heard the accusations as were just read by the DAG. You stipulated as to those accusations several years ago, is that correct?
Yes.
And as a result of that stipulation, you agreed to participate in probation, is that correct?
Yes.
And what were the requirements in terms of filing a probationary report? Did you have to file a probationary report?
Yes,
How often?
quarterly.
Okay. Did you note that they indicated that there was a period of time when you had either failed or were late to file a probationary report?
Yes,
Okay. Can you tell me, you've been on probation, what, 2 years, is that correct?
yes.
In that 2-year period, how many probation officers have you had?
2.
2. And in the transition, were there any problems experienced by you during a transition period between the two probation officers
Uh,
in terms of communicating?
no.
No? Okay. Then I have you confused with another. I apologize. Do you know what the cause of the late probationary report was?
The only last one, the late probation report was, I had been preparing my petition for this meeting here specifically, and I put a great emphasis into it and focused on that. And I had thought I had sent that, and I wasn't notified that I hadn't sent it. I realized that I hadn't sent it and immediately sent it at that point. And it was 10 to 14 days after it was supposed to have been done. And that was just a clerical error on my complete clerical error on my issue. And that was mostly because of, I thought I had submitted everything for this hearing. And was thinking I had everything submitted, but I had not submitted that.
Right. Also, as part of your probation, you were required to have your veterinary medical records reviewed as well, correct?
Yes.
And can you inform the board who you were able to have review those records for you?
Castle Batten.
Dr. Batten.
Dr. Batten, yes.
And we noted that there was a period of time they indicated that you did not have your records reviewed in a timely fashion. Can you tell the board why that occurred?
Certainly. At that time, we were going through a transition stage, moving from Golden Gate Fields to Pleasanton because Golden Gate Fields had closed down. We had actually had to move our physical office at a fairly short notice. And our computers and getting everything lined up, there was a delay in getting everything to her and that was it. And I explained that to my probationer and apologized for that and guaranteed that it wouldn't happen again. But it was purely because of moving our physical offices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since you were able to relocate and produce records for Dr. Batten to review, were you at any point afterwards late in the provision of your veterinary medical review reports?
No.
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 Was there any point during that process that Dr. Batten advised you that there was a problem with your veterinary medical records from her perspective?
No, none.
Was there any point during your probation that your probation officer advised you that the veterinary medical board was concerned with your veterinary medical records or the review by Dr. Batten?
No.
Okay. Also indicated that you have paid all of your costs related to this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Why is it you're asking the board for a modification of your probationary period?
Mostly, I feel like I have definitely learned and instituted everything and abide by everything they wanted to be completed, and I felt like I've accomplished that, and I've definitely employed all that into my practice, and I know it's only going to be a short time, 2 weeks maximum, that I'm probably going to, in reality, lose in my probation because of the time frame. Mine will be up in December 31st when everything's done with the hearing. If I were to be released early, it would ultimately end in 2 weeks. But I think that appearance of me showing that I have tried and succeeded in changing my record keeping and abided by everything that was asked of me by the California Veterinary Medical Board I think it is good on my record. It shows that I've done this, and I just want to be able to say, yeah, I even was released early on this because I've done everything that possible.
Well, when you say you've done everything, let me ask you, have you participated in any continuing education programs?
Yes, multiple.
And can you advise the board what type of programs you have participated in?
Well, they're all on record keeping. I think some of the big ones that we did also was on the controlled substances as well, learning how record keeping on that, because that is quite not difficult, but there's a lot to it. And if you can't just assume to know it. You need to learn that. And so that was one. I thought some of the more there was a lot of things in the record keeping, but that was a good one as far as learning how to do controlled substances, the record keeping on that, and the cures.
Okay. Have you participated in any other seminars beyond continuing education required by the California Veterinary Medical Board?
Yes, I get continuing education routinely. AAP, I'm going to this one coming up, and also online. I've done all the stuff for APHIS that's required for that we're required to have as well. That's also very educational.
Um, you sat through Dr. Kuhlman's testimony earlier, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
With regard to the treatment you provided to horses at the racetrack, did you also submit daily confidentials to the California Horse Racing Board during the period of time that you treated horses and/or administered medications at the racetrack?
Definitely.
And what was your understanding of the purpose of doing that?
They were wanting to know exactly what we were administering to the equine racehorse, and to have records of that, and to monitor that basically and control that.
Okay. If we look at the probationary period that you've gone through, do you have a sense that all of the requirements that the Veterinary Medical Board has imposed on you during this period has improved your practice as an equine veterinarian in the state of California?
Yes, definitely. I mean,
How so?
as Dr. Kuhlman had said, just having a full, complete record you can refer back to is very helpful. If you're referring to another veterinarian, very helpful. It definitely allows you to have a plan in place for your patient and visibly see that. I felt like we always, as Dr. Kuhlman said, we were there 7 days a week when these were our clients, and we saw these horses every day of the week. I mean, walked by them or saw them in some form pretty much every day of the week. And we always examined our horses, but having it documented and showing that it's a complete, that's a much more efficient and legal way to do it as well. So,
Okay. Has Dr. Kuhlman described his practice changing since racing ceased in March of this year? Has your practice a similar change?
identical, pretty much, yes.
And what types of equine clients are you seeing today?
Sport horse dressage, hunter jumpers. Those primarily all sport horses.
Okay. And previously, you said approximately how many horses in the racetrack setting were you seeing a day?
Anywhere from 100, over 100, many days a week, 1 to 200, and now I'm seeing 5 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Zark, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Dr. Allison, at the time of the allegations in 2017, you were licensed by the California Horse Racing Board, correct?
Yes.
And the California Horse Racing Board has regulations and laws pertaining to the treatment of horses, correct?
Yes.
Do the laws and regulations of CHRB require you as a veterinarian to document when you have, when you see a patient?
Technically, I do believe the correct answer to that is yes. How we were taught how to do this and what was accepted by the California Horse Racing Board veterinarians was completely different, though. They never asked for that, saw that, or required that for however long until the Equitaps was put in, electronic records were put into place. And But before that, and I think that's falling back from decades of veterinarians practicing in that way across the country, not just in California.
Did you at that time have any form of written documentation for the treatment of your patients?
Yes.
And how would you store that information?
We would manually write it and then have it entered into the computer system, billing system.
And was that documentation, if you know, provided to the board during their investigation?
Yes.
Now, you understand that the regulations and the laws of the California Horse Racing Board are different than those of the California Veterinary Board?
Yes.
And that as a veterinarian licensed by the California Veterinary Medicine Board, you have to abide by the regulations and the laws of this board, correct?
Yes.
And so in 2007, was it your understanding that complying with the regulations of the California Horse Racing Board was sufficient for meeting the requirements of the California Veterinary Medical Board?
Yes.
You are one of two veterinarians at San Francisco Equine, Inc.,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman being the second.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And so is it fair to say that the testimony by Dr. Coleman pertaining to the changes that that this premise has made to record keeping also applied to your practice?
Definitely.
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Could I ask just one question?
Sure.
Just remind me, Dr. Allison, who's the current premises permit holder for San Francisco Equine?
Me.
Okay, and when did you take over as the permit holder?
Exactly year and a half ago, I think. I'm not sure the exact date, but I think it was about a year ago, year and a half ago.
Okay, so as the current permit holder, you're quite familiar with the procedures related to the premises and the requirements from the Veterinary Medical Board, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Lazar?
Nothing further.
And we'll go down the line again for our board members. Dr. Maniak? No? Dr. Bradbury?
Good morning.
Morning.
I was just wondering if you could comment on why you think the CHRB referred you to our board for violations.
I think I can give it the same answer Dr. Coolman said as well. It was Dr. Franklin felt that we were not looking at the animals, just doing whatever was requested. Whereas I stated earlier, we looked at these horses daily, every day of the week, just about. I mean, we were examining them and recommending medications as needed by our call, and they were choosing to choose what they wanted to do. But he felt that we weren't doing that, which I feel is inaccurate.
And so the medications and the things that you were recommending, you felt were medically appropriate, and they could choose from the options you gave, but you felt like each of those options were medically appropriate for each horse?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Solicito?
Yes. Hi, thank you for being here. I just wanted to ask, from the time that these accusations were made and you were placed on probation, how difficult was it to be in compliance with the medical board, requirements?
I wouldn't say it was difficult, but it is definitely more work, which is fine. To have practice better medicine, that has to be expected. But difficulty, not as much, but just required more time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that
Do
answer?
you agree that it is necessary?
Yes.
Okay. And then I just needed a clarification because on the statement that you sent, you said you examined 20 to 80 patients
Or
or
more.
more.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is in the past,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I read it wrong. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Ms. Pulaski?
Yes, so part of your probation compliance, you had to obey all laws.
Yes, ma'am.
And the very first part, says that you had an inspection in August of 2024.
Yes.
However, you were non-compliant.
Um,
Can you explain what happened with some of the things, especially being the premises permit holder? Could you explain that to me and how and what happened there? And what have you done to correct some of those items?
uh, the Haglers, it was Mr. and Ms. Dr. Hagler, and I think Maria is RVT. Is that correct?
It was, so I see here after hours referral sign, food and beverage in refrigerator, the fire precautions, and there I think some of them were the record keeping, reviewed 5 records in 5 records for minimum standards in connection with the inspection, and there were still some deficiencies in that.
Yeah. Marie Hagler and her husband, Dr. Hagler, both, they were the inspectors. They were very, very helpful, very genuine, very, very good and very helpful for our practice. They came in and inspected the practice, and they found deficiencies. We corrected anything such as the fire hydrant was on the ground, we mounted, or no, we had it one mounted, but another one was on the ground. We eliminated that. The food and beverages, she made excellent, even more suggestions on record keeping, which we further implemented in our record keeping. So it's always a learning process, and they were very helpful, I felt like, and we definitely she checked off everything was in compliance after she was done that she had recommended to be corrected. We corrected, and she said that was good. So again, I can't emphasize how helpful that inspection was, and I mean that sincerely. And they were extremely helpful, and just in further implementing our record keeping, or even in our office as well. So does that answer your question?
Well, as a premises permit holder, like your name is on that.
Correct.
So that means that you're responsible for all these items. So my concern and my question is, so what are you doing to make sure that all of these items, and then going forward, what are you doing as for your premises to make sure that these items don't continue to happen, or other items don't come forward?
It's a learning process as always. I think they were super informative and helpful. I feel like I can always refer back to her. In fact, I can call her and ask her, and she would be helpful. And also, uh, uh, I think that we've become more diligent and with the continuing education and everything else. Going forward, we just try to implement. Sorry. Everything we can to remain compliant with California Veterinary Medical Board, and just doing due diligence on all that. I mean, just with continuing to learn, uh, and was self-policed after we're done with this, obviously, but we also will have inspections, I'm sure, going forward from the California Veterinary Medical Board, as you've had in the past. And I feel like, again, I think it's a great source for the California Veterinary Medical Board with the veterinarians. They go out there and inspect them and show them what they're doing wrong and help them become compliant. I think that's a really good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Espinoza?
Good morning, Dr. Allison. I mean, it couldn't be terrible timing. I mean, you received a letter dated October 3rd of this year, putting you on notice of a most recent probation violation, correct?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Did you recall receiving a letter dated October 3rd, 2025, notifying you of the most recent violation of probation?
Uh,
It was noticed by
So
during
what that,
inspection.
yes, okay, so what that was from our probation officer, he was stating everything that had been done in the past. I was confused about that as I was, I think I'm referring to what you're saying. That was a reference to everything such as Dr. Hagler, the inspection they did a year prior, and we had already instituted all the corrections on that. And so everything was corrected that he sent a letter to us about. You talk
Are you familiar with a violation that occurred on September 26th of this year?
on the inspection here, that most current inspection, is that what we're referring to? So there was yes, I am,
That was within the last,
correct.
right. And by that, I mean, that's terrible timing because you're
Yes,
coming before us
yes, yeah,
saying,
now
terminate my
I understand what you're
probation
saying now.
early.
Yeah,
That's highly unfortunate to be that recent.
yes,
But do you recall what that specific alleged violation was?
yes, now I do.
What was it?
There was a can of soda and Dr. Coolman's cooler in his vehicle.
And,
That was immediately taken out
and
and taken pictures of.
the reason why that's a violation is because you had human food, you had the
Correct.
can of squirt, the can of Coca-Cola that was in there with vaccines, correct?
Correct, yes.
Were you aware that having those items together was a violation?
Yes.
And obviously, since the timing was terrible, did you inquire how that happened and who was responsible for that on your premises?
It was, again, I was in Dr. Coolman's vehicle, and it was just a mistake on his part, and was immediately corrected.
How was it immediately corrected?
I removed the soda, or he removed the sodas out of the refrigerator, said that will not happen again, and they took a picture of it. The inspector did.
And over you were on a 3-year term of probation that's due to end the end of this year in December, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And what, do you recall the number of record-keeping violations that occurred over your term of probation that were documented
Record keeping violations,
while on probation?
I'm not aware of that number. No, I'm sorry.
Do you recall being record-keeping violations being brought to your attention while you were on probation?
Yes.
Does 36 sound about right?
I would go with what you said. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number. I don't recall the exact number at all. I would be incorrect saying if I knew, but yes, that sounds right.
Can you help us understand how it is, because you're before us and placed on probation, in part because of record-keeping violations, how then you could have attained 36 record-keeping violations while on probation?
I do believe that those were all during the time of the first inspection. I didn't remember them being that many, but okay. Again, it's a learning process. We're trying to increase everything. We're not perfect. We do make some mistakes. We're trying to definitely improve all our record keeping and doing everything we can to reinstate that. And again, I can't going back to when Dr. Hagler came and inspected us. She was very helpful with our record keeping as well and giving us direction on what needed to be done.
And with the benefit of insight, what do you think it is that leads you to have these record-keeping violations while on probation? I mean, 36, 34, 36 is a large amount. So I just want to be confident that now you understand and now you know what's required and you're able to comply with that.
Again, I think it's the number of horses at that time that we were seeing. We're seeing over 100 horses, where I think we're referring to mostly verbal drug consults and VCPRs being documented as such. And we have instituted since that time for sure that is all going back to that. If it's not written down in if it's not in the record, it wasn't done. And I think we've made every effort to make sure verbal drug consults and documentation of client-patient relationship is documented as well as not just assumed, but documented.
So because as the number of animals that you provide care for the volume has decreased, that allows
Yes.
you to be a little bit more accurate and diligent in your record keeping. Is that fair
Much
to
more
say?
thorough, much more easier. Yeah. And again, when you're looking at the sheer quantity of numbers of horses that we were seeing back then as compared to now, that I think was part of the problem as well.
And the bulk of these record keeping violations, they occurred at a period of time when you had the larger volume of animals you were providing care to?
Correct.
Thank you.
Dr. Tomlinson.
Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. I appreciate all the prior ones. One would be that your partner stated that you are no longer dispensing any controlled medications. You are not using cures at this time,
Correct. Yeah.
and you do not anticipate restarting that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the record, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. No. Yeah.
Perfect.
And as far as dispensing, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I've dispensed a controlled substance. That was, again, the carisoprodol was something that'd been the only one in it's decades. So
Cool. Thank you.
Mayor Mitchell.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. I don't really have any questions other than to ask if you anticipate you would continue with continuing education after your probation do you see the value in continuing with that?
yes, always have, and having the focus on the continuing on the record keeping was beneficial. As when I go to AEP, if you saw a record keeping class, that wouldn't have been one you say, oh, I want to go to that one. Now I'd rather go see the surgical one or the medical one, and not who would want. But now I understand that more.
Great, thank you.
And yes, I'm going to AEP this year.
And the changes that you made in your practice will be ongoing to make sure that these don't happen again?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board member have any questions? No? Any follow-up for petitioner? No? Any follow-up for the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor.
Any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Again, looking over the probation compliance report and the 36 record-keeping violations that I think Commissioner Espinoza just referred to, if I'm looking at the correct portion of the report, I note that the last record-keeping violation that's noted here occurred August 4th of 2024. Approximately 15, 16 months ago. And I think it's worth noting that the VCPR and the drug consultation and the treatment plan and some of these things can be explained, not justified, can be explained by what I refer to in the context, Dr. Pullman. That the practice at the racetrack was to do the confidentials, to do the equitaps, to do those reports. The VC PR was established by the relationship between the veterinarians and the trainers who are the authorized agent, who are the informed, not laymen, they are the informed, educated individuals with regard to equine medication and equine veterinary treatments. So it's again that tug between sort of the CV, California Veterinary Medical Board, and the CHRB. And what has occurred, I think, for both of these veterinarians is they were caught in that tug, and they have learned over this probationary period that there's a way to address the tug, and the way to address the tug is to comply in the fashion that the Veterinary Medical Board has. And it was also, I think, a revelation to the CHRB, and that's part of the reason why they adopted the Equitap system to, because so many veterinarians who were practicing at the racetrack were caught up in this problem, that they needed to implement a system that helped them comply with what the California Veterinary Medical Board wanted, and reflected sort of modernization and improvement of the CHRB's practices. And so, part of the reason why you require probation and education, it's a learning process. Because when these individuals start this probationary period, they don't know the things that they're going to know a year later or a year and a half later, after going through continuing education, after interacting with probationary officers, after filing the reports that they need to. It's a learning process. That's why you have a probation process. And I think when you look at and you review Dr. Allison's record, and you see the last of these is August 4th, 2024, it reflects that they've gotten the message, they've understand it, they've changed their practice. They're not going to be perfect. There might be other issues. If we are fortunate as Californians to have these two veterinarians continue to practice equine veterinary medicine in the state, they may make additional mistakes. They're not perfect, but this reflects that there's certainly been a lot of improvement since August 4th, 2024. And they've learned, and they continue to learn. And that's what I'm hoping the board takes from this. And I think what Dr. Allison, he asked for a modification of his probation, and he recognized that if he were fortunate enough to have the board grant him a modification, by the time it's implemented, it would roughly take 2 weeks off his probationary period. And while 2 weeks doesn't seem like much, it means a lot to Dr. Allison to be able to say that that his contrition and his growth as a practitioner was credible to the board. He's admitted his mistakes, but his growth and his contrition is credible. And it may never be important, those 2 weeks in terms of employment, but if he was able to say, the board recognized I grew and I changed and I improved, and they took 2 weeks off, that's incredibly important to him. And I think you've got a veterinarian who's trying to comply, who's admitting they weren't perfect and they're trying to comply. And hopefully that matters. Again, that matters. And hopefully 30 some years servicing as many horses as they have without doing harm. You're not here because they've done harm to any animal, to any horse, to any relationship with an owner or trainer. They're here because they didn't comply with the record keeping, which is important. We're not downgrading how important that is. That's not what we're doing. But we're hopefully highlighting what was a conflict between agencies that is now getting straightened out, and it's going to lead to better equine veterinarians, and hopefully not a loss of equine veterinarians, which we have in the state. And I'm hoping we don't have a continuing loss of equine veterinarians in the state, which we do, and they are not graduating at Davis. The class of equine veterinarians coming out of Davis the last few years is almost non-existent. And you can't bring equine veterinarians out of state to California. They don't want to come practice here. And so I'm hoping that this board recognizes the efforts of these veterinarians to comply and can offer them some grace. Thank you.
Thank you. Any closing remarks for the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor.
And that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. Matter is submitted and the record is closed. We're off the record. Thank you both. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then we're going to go into closed session to deliberate.
Happy holidays to everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna say it now. Happy holidays, and we hope to have you guys all. Okay, I'll see you guys next year. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.